Hi Flosstube, it's Helen D. Today I am going to prep my perforated paper for the Freaky Fair Isle SAL that I'm doing with Carla at Cobweb Corner and Barbie of Pedal Pusher. This is the chart. You can stitch this on perforated paper or on regular fabric. I may do both, but I'm definitely doing the perforated paper. So I'm going to get this all prepped and ready. If you ordered this from Carla, you had the option of ordering a half sheet, of perforated paper. It's stitched on a black Mill Hill perforated paper. The half sheet is 6 inches by 9 inches. These come in 12 by 9 sheets, usually in packs of 2. So you have your half sheet of paper. So this design is 7.5 wide by 2.7 high. So it's 7.5 by 2.7. And on perforated paper, if you've never used it, when you're done and you're doing your finishing on a shaped object like this, you end up cutting that out. Like, I don't know how well you can see. There's the bottom hole of my stitches. You leave just enough of the paper so that the stitches don't come undone. You cut it right one edge away. So a 7.5 by 2.7 design is really going to be 7.5 by 2.7. There's no kind of extra. So theoretically, on your 9 by 6 sheet of paper, you could fit 2 bats. You'll just have to do some very careful measuring, and you won't be able to prep it the way that I'm going to show you because you just won't have enough. What I've decided to do is I'm going to add some fabric to mine so that I can stitch it on a Q-snap. So a couple things about perforated paper, again, if you're new. If something is small, like this, to me, is about as large as I would want to stitch something on hand in the perforated paper, personally, because I find that it gets very floppy and bendy and I don't want to damage it. If I'm doing one of those like the Lizzie Kate or the Foxwood Crossing sleds, they're very small. I will cut my paper just a few rows bigger on both sides and stitch that in hand. This one came with, this is a Satsuma Street kit, and it came with a piece of perforated paper that was probably, you know, a few rows bigger on each side. So I stitched that as is and then cut it out. For this one, like I said, I want to stitch it on the Q-snap to try and keep it a little straighter. So what I'm going to do first is find the center point of this paper so that I know that's where I'm going to start. I want to make sure everything's going to fit. I'm going to start it in the center. Like I said, if you were trying to get 2 out of this, you could cut it into a strip of 3 inches, and then you'd really have to count, because again, it's 2.7, so you really would only have a couple of rows on each side. Because I'm fitting mine, I have Frankensteined together a Q-snap to be 9.25 by 4.25 is about what I'm at. I'm going to cut my paper to be 9 inches by 4 inches and start from there. So I'm just going to take this, find my ruler, here it is. I know this is 6 inches. I'm going to cut 2 inches off. And I'm just going to use my, you could use scissors, but for ease of use, I'm just going to zip it right down. So I now have a 9 by 4 strip of perforated paper. So I'm going to take this, flip it over, and find my center point so that way I can do a center start and I'll know that everything will fit. This is 9 by 4. So 4.5 inches the long way and 2 inches down will be my center point. So let's see if I can do this. Let's see if I can do this math on camera. Doesn't always happen. Luckily for me, this is a 2-inch ruler, so that's going to help. So if I take my 2-inch ruler, try not to bump the camera, And I'm going to come in, line my ruler up with the bottom, come in 4.5 inches. And then because this is paper, you can write on it. I'm writing on the back side, obviously it's the white side, so you could take and do, I'm going to do kind of a longer line. I'm going to come up, draw a line, and then I'm going to come in the 4.5 inches, right to my 2 inch, and draw another line. And then I'll hold it close so you can see what I did. This is hard to show because it keeps so see-through. So where my two lines intersect is the middle of this particular piece of cut perforated paper. So I'm going to come in and draw, like, I'm really going to mark it with a circle. So I know when I go to start this, my first X should cover that circle. So now I am marked on the back side. I don't need to worry about erasing it. It's on the back. No one's going to see it. So then what I did, I had some scrap fabric, and I cut some 2.5 inch strips. My fabric happened to be exactly the same as this. So I'm going to sew with my sewing machine, because you can sew right through this. I'm going to flip this over. It doesn't matter right side, wrong side. This is just scrap. I'm going to sew a piece on each of the long edges, and then I'm going to sew a piece on the other edges. So I'm just going to come in with a 1/4 inch. I know I have enough because my design was 2.7, so it's less than 3. So even if I take another 1/4 inch out of this paper, my paper is 4. So I will still have plenty of room. So I'm going to zip this down through. Well, that's extra jiggly. Let me move that over. Sorry. My fancy table here is a fold-out not coffee table, it's a card table. So if my machine is not right on the edge, everything gets shaky. I knew it. This machine, every time I do a tutorial lately. My bobbin caught, so I'll fix that and be right back. I told my machine to behave. We'll see if it does. So I went through, fixed my bobbin, and then just zipped this down so both sides of my fabric are on there. I'm going to open that up. Now, if you wanted to go iron this, by all means. For speediness of tutorial, I'm not going to bother. I'm going to take my other strips, which are longer than they need to be, but I can trim them up after. And again, zip those on there. So it's now I'm on both the paper and the fabric strip. And I'm just giving my perforated paper a border so that I can fit this into that Q-snap. So I won't make you watch me do this. I'm going to do both sides. Cross your fingers on my machine. I'll be right back. Surprisingly, it did behave itself. So you can see I just sewed on to the extra strips. I'm just going to come in here with my scissors and just cut these extra bits off. Get them out of my way. So this gives us a working area of 8.5 by 3 3/8. I don't know, just shy of 3.5. I'm not a math major. So plenty of room for our bat to fit. Now I can take my Q-snap Slide it under there. Remember where I put my clamps? Oh, they're right here. And clamp this on. You may need, I like to use just a piece of craft felt under my clamps to kind of hold things tighter, and you especially might need that with this just cotton fabric because it's not as thick as a stitching fabric. So you can just clamp these on. This is a great way too if you had like little extra strips of a jelly roll. I think those are already 2.5. And you don't have to do 2.5. You can do whatever will fit your frame. So now I'm in there. I'm all in my Q-snap. My center point is marked. So when I'm ready to start, I will find the center point on the chart, which is marked. I think it's kind of the little, it's right around here on the peak of his nose, close to there. And I can start that in the center. Stitch him on here. And then when I'm ready and I'm done, I just cut him out. And like I said, because on the perforated paper, you cut it just one edge away, you don't need a lot of extra. So I'm ready to go. I'm glad everyone is joining us. If this is your first time working with a perforated paper, I hope that it works well for you. I had a couple people ask, if I have any tips. I don't really. You do use 3 strands of floss on the 14 count perforated paper so that it really shows. This is 3 strands of floss, and it really, you'll notice the holes a little more if you only use 2, especially on the black. So 3 strands of floss, which means you can't do a loop start. Unfortunately, you have to tuck your tails in the back. And then people ask what size needle. I always use a 26 needle. That's what I'm comfortable with. If you find that your 26 needle keeps falling out when you're working with it, you might want to go up to a 24. That might work a little better for you. Sometimes with the 3 strands of floss, the thickness, if you pull your needle through a little before you go to grab it on the other side, that thickness of all the floss will kind of hold it in place. I haven't had a problem, but I know some people say, my needle keeps falling through, it's annoying, which it is, right? So that's that. I hope this was helpful, and can't wait to see everyone's bats.